The Scoop, Ridgewood High School's guest interview talk show. I'm your host, Joanne Dynak, and joining us today is a contestant from Majide and ABC Television's I Survived a Japanese Game Show, Megan Bentley. Welcome to The Scoop, Miss Bentley.
Thanks, Joanne. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where do you currently work?
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Piqua, Ohio. It's a small town just north of Dayton. And I've lived in Chicago for about 8 years now, and I work as a dental sales representative. So I sell a dentist anything that goes into your mouth, to the chair that you sit in, to the front office supplies or office design. And I've been doing that for about 3 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in Ohio?
Well, I went to a small high school, so there's about 350 or 400 students, and I absolutely loved it. High school was quite possibly the best 4 years of my life. I was really active in my community, in my high school, and I absolutely loved it. Big farm community too, so a lot of people in my school went on to be agriculture majors or take over the family farm, and every year a big highlight was to go to the county fair where we would show our steers or our pigs or goats or any kind of livestock. So probably a lot different than growing up here in Chicago.
Probably. Have you lived anywhere else other than Chicago and Ohio?
Well, I lived in Milwaukee for 2 years, and I lived in Texas for a summer, and I lived in Japan for a little bit when I competed on the game show. So other than that, I think those are the only places.
Very cool. How about college? Where did you go to school?
Well, I started at Miami University of Ohio, and I started as a theater major, and then I finished here at Columbia College of Chicago as an arts, media, and entertainment management major. So kind of a jump from another small school in Ohio to the big city. So
very cool. What made you decide to take up arts and media?
Well, I really just always was interested in broadcast, or maybe doing some kind of maybe be an agent or a manager for somebody in the entertainment business, or even doing some event planning. So I thought, well, Chicago definitely has a lot more opportunities, so maybe it might be good there, so I could do some internships on the side while finishing my degree.
Right, and after you graduated college, where did you work?
Well, I started out as a mobile tour manager, so within the event marketing industry. So what that means is I took products on publicity tours around the nation. So I did a publicity tour for the video iPod before it was launched onto the shelves. So I went to really fun places like the Sundance Film Festival or the X Games, or I'd go to trade shows and just kind of showcase the product so that when the product was launched, people knew what it was. So it was definitely a fun job, but I was living out of a suitcase nonstop for 2 years. So that's what made me think, okay, where can I still be out traveling around and not sitting behind a desk, but I could still be back at my home at night, and that's how I kind of landed into dental sales. And my dad's a dentist, so he said, hey, that might be a good career choice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So how did you find out about Majide, and what kind of made you want to audition?
Well, for I Survived a Japanese Game Show, so it's a show within the show. Majide is the name of the game show that is played on I Survived a Japanese Game Show. And actually, they found me. I had a profile on what's called realitywanted.com. And it's just a place you can post a profile, say a little bit about yourself, and you could look for casting calls. And I remember watching the first season of I Survived a Japanese Game Show, and I watch all sorts of trash reality shows. And I watched that one, I thought, well, this is stupid. So I turned it off and I didn't watch it. And then I had the casting director call me and say, hey, we saw your profile in Reality Wanted, and we want to interview you, and it kind of just took off from there. So I'm thinking, of course, the one show I didn't watch is the show I land. So it was definitely interesting. But the reason I was on that website is just because I was always constantly trying for about 8 years to be on a reality show. So I was trying out for about one show a year. And sometimes I would make it to secondary rounds or to a third round, but I never made it all the way. But Majide I did.
What other shows did you try out for?
Well, I've tried out for The Real World, I think back when I was 18. I think that was the first one I tried out for. I tried out for The Amazing Race. I tried out for The Bachelor, which I got to a couple rounds a few times. Tried out for The Mole. I think I made it to the third round on that. But just here and there, and I would learn every time I went to an open casting call, to figure out whether the casting calls are the way to go, or if sending in a video is the way to go for this one. So it was definitely a learning experience each and every time. Right
now, for this one, I believe there was a certain YouTube video that played a key part in your audition.
There was a YouTube sensation. Yes, there was. And what the YouTube video that you're referring to is called the Jingle Medley Mania. Right. And it is, I believe, 16 of my favorite commercials that I put together in a collaboration. And what that one started out for was American Idol. I tried to try out for that. I thought, You know, they only put on the good, the bad, and the most original on TV. And I have an okay voice, but it's not an American Idol voice. So how can I get on TV? So I created this, and I didn't get a chance to try out. But as you asked, yes, the casting director said, hey, are there any videos or anything that we can look up about you? And I said, well, of course, go to YouTube and look up Jingle Medley Mania. So I think this kind of helped seal the deal on how crazy, you know, he thought I was. So I think I look clinically insane if you go to YouTube and check it out.
What gave you the idea for putting together 16 commercials in a song?
Well, it was for the American Idol
right.
audition. So, and since I didn't get, there were too many people in Chicago for me to even get a chance to try out. And looking back, I'm thinking, oh, it was too much product placement. I would have never been able to get that on. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to slap it onto YouTube anyhow and see what happens. And force my friends to watch.
Did anyone help you with that show or with that video?
Other than just my friend recording, no. It was all purely me.
All you. So, now about Japan and traveling there. Was this your first time in Japan, or had you been there before?
It was my first time staying in Japan. I did a layover in Japan one time on my way to China. So I had visited the Orient before, and it's definitely a huge culture shock. So I felt very, like I maybe had a little bit of an edge just because I'd been through that culture shock way back in my early 20s. So I was prepared for the food and the people and you know, all the differences.
What were you doing over in China?
In China, I went when I was 22 with my parents, and my dad, he's a dentist, and he was a speaker over at the University of Beijing with a couple of friends, so we thought, why not just turn it into a family vacation? So we did that for about 2 weeks, and that was my first time overseas. I'd never been to Europe or anywhere, and I don't recommend going there for your first international experience because it's such a big shock, but it's definitely an amazing, you know, it's a different world. It's a completely different world. So China and Japan.
Right. Have you ever been anywhere else outside of the U.S.?
I've traveled all through Europe. I've visited about 30 different countries. I went backpacking through Europe for 4 months, so I definitely knocked a lot of those out of the way. And I've been to Jamaica, Mexico, and Canada.
Did you have any favorite places in Europe that you enjoyed visiting?
Absolutely. Berlin is my absolute favorite city. I think it's the New York City of Europe. And of course, Interlaken, there's a lot of fun extreme sports where you can go skydiving or canyoning or rappelling, anything you can think of. And then I think another place you have to visit would be Rome, because there's just definitely so much history there that's, you know, slowly deteriorating and crumbling down. So if you get a chance, hit those 3 cities.
So how long did you stay over in Japan?
In Japan, I was there for 27 days. There were 30 days of filming just due to visa abilities, I guess. You would have to have had an extended visa. So I survived 27 out of 30 days of filming.
Right. So what was your first impression of the show once you got there? You know, the contestants, the host. What was that like?
Well, something that's a little bit that caught me